Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to add data analysis in Google Sheets using two different methods. So first things first, you want to make sure your internet connection is turned on. Then open up the sheet with the data you'd like to analyze. Google Sheets has two built-in analysis tools you can use. The first one I'm going to talk about is the pivot table. A pivot table is a tool in Google Sheets that helps you summarize and organize large amounts of data. Instead of looking at all the rows one by one, a pivot table quickly shows you totals, averages, counts, or other results to make the data easier to understand. So now I'm going to show you how to use a pivot table in Google Sheets. The first thing you want to do is make sure your internet connection is turned on. Then simply click on any of the spaces with data in them on your sheet and select Insert. Then select Pivot Table. And here you can choose to place the whole data, your pivot table, on a new sheet or an existing sheet. If you choose an existing sheet, you have to put in the name, but I'm going to go with a new sheet and click Create. Once you create the pivot table, you'll see the editor on the right. If the editor doesn't show up, this could be because you didn't properly format your original sheet. Make sure that each column here has a title, a header, because this is how it will be identified in the pivot table. And these headers are basically the things like my dates, items, region, sales rep, just the things right here. So now I'm just going to head back to my pivot table. And in the pivot table editor, you're going to see some suggested ways to just summarize your data here. But we're not going to use this. We're actually going to go through each of these categories, the rows, columns, values, and filters, just to help you better understand the pivot table editor and customize it to fit your preferences. So the first thing we're going to add here is data in the rows column. So under rows here, just click add, and you can choose any of these dates, items, but I'm going to choose my sales rep, and they will appear here in alphabetical order. You can change the order from ascending to descending, but I'm going to leave it as is. And now you can see it's much easier to know who all our sales reps are compared to this original sheet, which looked quite disorganized and confusing. And if you'd like, you could also add another row for another category besides the sales rep category by selecting add. And here you can go with anything here, but I'm going to go with dates. And then you see what days they were active, our sales reps. You can see that this person was active all the days of the month, or pretty much all the days of the month, just except the fourth day. And this can just help you get an idea of who is the most active among the sales reps. Now I'm just going to remove that. I just added the dates because I want to keep my pivot table as small as possible, but you could leave it if you wish. Next, we're going to go under the column section and click add. And here I would like to put my items. So whatever items they are selling, and you see that they appear right here in the columns at the top. And in the rows and columns section, you'll see the show totals. You can unselect them, but I'm going to leave them selected so I can see the totals once I'm done. Now the next thing we're going to add is the values. This is simply what's going to fill this whole empty space here. So click on add, and what I want is the total items sold. So I want it to display what items each person sold and how much they sold. So I'm just going to select total items sold. And here you can see the items that were not sold by Cindy and Dan and Eva. I can also see who sells the most of which particular items. And since I left show totals ticked here, I can see the grand total, like how much each person has sold and how much of each has been sold. So here you can see that this person has sold the most, Alice, and the item that sells the most here is the popcorn. So this just makes it easier to just better analyze all the data you have on your original sheet. You could also select how you want the numbers here to view. It doesn't have to be numbers. You could change it to percentages. So if I select that, It shows the percentages of each item sold and what is sold the least. So I'm just going to change this back to the default because I don't want it showing as percentages. And instead of the total items sold, you could also choose to see how much the price is for each item sold. So if I select item cost, it will show how much each of the items they sold was and the grand total, of course, since I left the total ticked here. Or if I want to see the total costs of the items they sold, I can also cancel this and select total sales. And here I'll just see the total prices of each item they sold. And here I can see that the person who sells the most, who made the most money, was Alice, and the person who made the least was Eva. And finally, the last thing we're going to look at is the filters. This is just a great way to filter out the data you want to see. For instance, if you'd like to see the sales made on a particular day or days, so just click on add, and I'm going to select date. And you won't see any change immediately because it's showing all the items still. So select that and select clear. So for instance, if I want to see all the sales made on this particular day, I'll just select that and click OK. And I can see who sold those on the days. I can see here it's only Alice. Or if I want to select more, I could do that. And the values here expand. I can see that Bob is also here, Cindy and Dan. And that's it really, nothing complicated. That is how you use a pivot table to analyze data in your sheets. The second built-in analysis tool in Google Sheets is a function called Vlookup. The Vlookup or vertical lookup function in Google Sheets is a powerful tool for searching specific data in a vertical column and returning a corresponding value from another column in the same row. It's incredibly useful for tasks like matching IDs and retrieving prices. The VLOOKUP function has four parts. The first one is the search key. For instance, what you are looking for, it could be one of these, let's say the popcorn. Next is the range. This is basically the table containing the data. The next is the index. This is the column number from the left of the range with the data you want to fetch. One important thing to note is that when you use the VLOOKUP function, it only extracts data to the right. So if I was to select this Alice first, it will only select from the right. If I had another column here, I could also select that, but it won't select from the left. Now the fourth and final part of the formula is called is sorted, and this can be a bit confusing. This part of the formula is just basically asking you if your data here is sorted in order. Now, there are two responses you can input in this part of the formula, true or false. True will return an approximate value, whereas inputting false will give you the exact value. And it's recommended for you to use false most of the time, or pretty much all the time, to get the exact value you're looking for. Now, before you use the VLOOKUP function, you want to make sure that your data is in a table format like this. And now simply click on the cell where you want the data to appear and enter equals VLOOKUP. Here it's showing a suggestion. You can just select VLOOKUP here. And you see the criteria we talked about before, the search key, range, index, and is sorted. So for the search key part, you want to type in the value you want the VLOOKUP to search. But there's a better way to do this. You can use a cell reference by simply clicking on the value. And you see what makes using a cell reference better once we're done with the whole formula. Then enter a comma. And the next is the range. So we're just going to click on the top of our table and drag to select all the data. And you see that mine is A1 to C11. Then enter a comma again. And the next thing we need to enter here is the index. And the index is basically the number of the columns. So since I selected donuts, which is in the first column, that would be 1, and this would be 2, the next column would be 2, and the third one would be 3. So if I want to extract the item cost from the third column, I'll enter 3 as the index, then enter a comma again. And the final part of the VLOOKUP formula is this part is sorted. Remember what I said earlier, true will return an approximate value, whereas false will return the exact value. So you want to enter false here and close it with a bracket. Now just hit enter and you'll see it imports the item cost from the data here. And since we used a cell reference when we were writing the formula, if you change this here to anything else on this side, for instance, chips, and hit enter, you'll see that it imports the data of chips right here. So that's just what makes using a cell reference better than actually manually typing in the data. If you see a hashtag NA error when you use the formula, this is because the lookup value you entered there doesn't exist in the table. Double check to make sure that you spell everything correctly and that the value you entered actually exists on the table. If you see the hashtag ref error, this is because the number you imputed for the index exceeds the number of columns here. You see the hashtag value error, this is because the search key was incorrectly formatted. For instance, if you write a number here, 3, and instead of writing it as a number, you write it as letters, for instance, 3, it will show an error here. Those are the two built-in data analysis tools you can use in Google Sheets. You can use either of these or both of them to effectively analyze data in your sheets. And that's it for today's video. I hope it helped you out. If it did, make sure to leave a like, share, and leave a comment below if you have any questions. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.